And welcome to the latest edition of the Duval Dive, a Jaguars podcast. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game of the Jaguar Report of SI, and my good friend Travis Holmes of Big Cat Country. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, NFL football is officially really real for real. Thursday night had one hell of a season debut. Fun football all the way around. You had moments where Patrick Mahomes II looked like Patrick Mahomes II, even without one Travis Kelce. And you also had the Detroit Lions out there biting people's kneecaps off. Of course, there's a lot of conversation about whether what kneecaps were moving or any of that, whatever. But this is a Jaguars-based podcast. And Travis, to kind of open things up, there are a few Jaguar-related things over and above the fact that Patrick Mahomes II will be facing the Jags for their home opener. Don't want to concentrate on that too much because this time next week we'll be talking about that game. But Jawan Taylor, former Jacksonville Jaguar tackle, was in the game. And then the other one that could have been over Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, both in the game, both big factors in the game. And in true Travis Holmes fashion, when Aiden Hutchinson was blowing people up in front of him, oh, well, I guess we should have gotten to so-and-so what the thing doing. God bad. I make fun of you, Travis, but like I don't blame Jaguar fans for thinking that after watching this film, Aiden Hutchinson got plenty busy. So floor is yours, my friend.
I mean, no, you have it right. Unfortunately, it's hard to let that go when you're a team who has is seemingly no depth at defensive end right now. Like if there's any one position that's consistently been a position of worry for the Jaguars fan base, it's outside linebacker. It's whether or not Walker's going to take that step forward. But on top of that, do we have any depth? Like we're still talking about Clavon Chason being our third defensive end until we have till Smoot comes back and we get a little bit more rotation there. I mean, we have our DC. We have Mike Caldwell just yesterday when he spoke to the media, stating that essentially there's that snap distribution for that pass rush is going to be hot hand. They're going to treat it like a running back. They don't know who's going to be that in reality. They don't know who's going to be that third guy. It's going to be whoever's producing. So when you have someone who could have been that pick when Trayvon Walker was picked, that's producing in the way that Hutchinson is producing. And I know people are going to say it's all about the sacks. This dude is playing a magician. And Pat Mahomes, now you see me, now you don't. Pat Mahomes, who's a top 2 quarterback at avoiding sacks. He avoided 47 last year. And he's a bottom 3 quarterback as far as how often he's sacked per year if you're talking only starting quarterbacks. Like, this is a guy who's rarely sacked. So you can't just put it on stats or as far as sacks are concerned. He had a Josh Allen type game at Jaguars. Josh Allen, fifth year of his contract, would likely be a top free agent. Josh Allen type game as his first game in his sophomore year. I'm not going to rile it up and say this dude's incredible, but he absolutely had a good game if you have eyes, if you watch the tape. And as far as Jawan Taylor, he had a good game. I'm not going to just BS it because he's no longer wearing a Jaguar uniform. Like, the guy had a good game. If you watch what he did, a lot of Hutchinson's stats and Hutchinson's pressures came when they put him at defensive tackle, which is funny because that's sort of what we're talking about doing with Walker. So maybe we'll see a step forward when he has those opportunities, starting Sunday. But that's so both teams, but both former, or I can't even call them former Jaguars. So both players,
Prospects, if you will.
yeah, both Jaguar, either former players or prospects, did well in this game, and you can't really be mad about it unless you're someone who just really, really, really wanted Hutchinson in the draft.
And that's fine too. I really feel like and Trent Baalke is associated with a sort of mistake, and I put sort of in air quotes mistake, in that there's an analysis by paralysis feel, right? Remember, the reason why they drafted Trayvon Walker in the first place is because of their awareness in that they're in a run heavy division. They weren't necessarily looking for a sack master. That being said, that where that vision gets narrow is, you're looking to win other games. What do you do once you're past the playoffs? I wonder if Aiden Hutchinson, for example, chases down a limited Patrick Mahomes II in a final playoff game there, 27-20, or perhaps even a Chad Henne in that instance. So, and I mean, that's where I think those that are so anti Trayvon Walker have a legitimate beef. I wasn't high on the pick. I wasn't as low on it as you and others were, but I understood both sides of the argument. Frankly, that's why I'm not so passionate about it. And you mentioned Jawan, you mentioned Jawan Taylor. The internet is a Twitter, if you will, with see, I can say that and it's not a pun anymore. X go and give it to you. Anyways, see, that is a pun though. Jawan Taylor, the interwebs is lighting up, it's a false start. So here's the thing. If it was, it would have been called. Okay. I think it's a matter of the timing. This is something that he took the time to practice his craft to get very precise. Listen, as a player, I would have never tried to do this just because you have to be that precise. What the claim is that the snap is quote, or rather that the movement is with the snap. And it was one of these where it's kind of like, I liken it to, Travis, the delay of game concept. The clock may be at 0-0, but they're not going to flag it right away. It's that similar sort of thing. And, I'll put it this way. I think J.J. Watt puts it best. If they're not going to call it and he's got it worked out, I'm going to keep using it, is what
Bingo.
it is,
No, bingo. That's exactly what it is. And again, he didn't do this his freshman his first year in the league. He practiced it in that going into his second year, and he practiced it like a craft. And in the words of my old college coach, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Like, it is a loophole in the rule book, just like the delay of game penalty. Like, if the referee looks at you and looks at the ball, it's that small little difference of time it takes for you to look from one to the other. Hey, it is what it is. The man's perfected it, and he did it in Jacksonville, and it's only becoming a thing because it's happening for the Chiefs, and it's the Chiefs are cheating again because no one wants, like he's done it throughout the majority of his career. So it kind of just is the Twitter fingering.
So then the thing to watch in week 2 in Everbank Stadium is if they start concentrating on Jawan Taylor, if the Jags will have a few opportunities at longer yard down and distances due to that. That would be very interesting to observe. Or, will Coach Reed and company and Matt Nagy and company be like, nice job, Jawan. Don't ever bleeping do it again. That too. Anyways, I think we can move on from Thursday and saying happy football to those of us here who are into the Duval dive doing the thing. By the way, make sure if you aren't catching this on the stream, you catch this on all your podcatchers, wherever you listen to your podcasts. But if you're listening on the podcast and you want to catch the stream live at Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, you can always check out the SOTG Twitter. You can always check out the SOTG Facebook page as a student of the game. A7BN Sports, as you see in the upper left corner. And of course, on the other side in the right corner there, Sertoba Media's YouTube page, where the struggle is real to be awesome, as well as Huddle Up Podcast Inc. Oh, yeah. And if you're like one of those younger whippersnappers, I have a Twitch account, the SOTG. Anyways, Travis, one win in the past 10 tries for Indianapolis, I think, is the big story if you are a Jacksonville Jaguar fan. And I have to say, there's an awful lot of things that look good for the Jaguars as far as them turning that streak into 2 in the past 11. Again, not precisely great, but, still a possibility. What is it? Rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, a lot of youth all over the roster.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it you see the Jags able to take advantage of here?
Well, I mean, and obviously their best players on the sideline, that helps, significantly, in Jonathan Taylor. Not playing for Indianapolis. So there's the obvious benefit there. However, there's the other side of that coin with Devon Hamilton not being available for Jacksonville. So there is some give and take there. But however, at the end of it all, we know the strength of this Jaguars team is at the quarterback position at the head coach, which essentially is the offensive coordinator, the play caller. We've
There we
talked
go.
about this forever. As far as, hey,
Pencil whip.
he's a pencil whipping just machine. Like that. That is what he is known for. That is what Doug does. Doug
Mm.
does, yes.
Yeah.
That is one of the major strengths. So when you're talking about, hey, what are they going to take? What can they take advantage of? Hey, you can take advantage of this secondary that no longer has Gilmore. You can take advantage of possibly even running the ball, which we did very successfully last season against Indianapolis, like to the tune of 243 yards when we last played them in Indianapolis. However, dot, is that running game better? And that was actually Press Taylor's point that he made yesterday with the media. Also, it was, hey, we ran for 243 yards, and I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but basically that they were an extremely explosive offense as far as running the ball. However, they got to close the games out. That's the root of all of it. You got to be able to close that out because you can run for 243 yards. Trevor doesn't even throw for 200. However, when it gets down to those money downs, those third and ones, those fourth and ones, those fourth and goals, are you closing it out with a touchdown or are you giving it up? Those 3 points, and that can be the difference in a game like this when you're in enemy territory. So I actually see them being pretty successful in both the run game and the pass game, but the major thing that they can take advantage of is that Calvin Ridley dude. That Calvin Ridley dude, that that Christian Kirk, that receiving core, and
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence just dicing that Gus Bradley's defense up. And most people already know Trevor's been extremely successful against Gus Bradley in those 2 games that he's played versus him so far. Like he's 45 of 52, which is an 86% completion ratio
That's
at
awesome.
for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns with no interceptions.
Mhm.
Like he takes what he gives it, he drives down the field. And again, that may not jump off the page on yardage, but remember, they ran for 243 yards. Like they weren't even trying to throw the ball. They only had 22 passes attempted in the last time they played in Indianapolis. So all that to say is we are in a great situation. This is a great matchup for Jacksonville. If you don't omit the fact that Shaq Leonard didn't play in those 2 games last year,
I was going to
and
go to
he
Shaq
will,
Leonard.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he will be here. So that changes the calculus just a little bit. But those are the benefits for Jacksonville. That's where it leans Jacksonville, both the passing game and the running game.
Yeah, to mention Shaq Leonard's return is a must. The fact that this is actually the advantage for Indy that they have in this
Mm,
being the opening matchup of the season. Players who were hurt throughout a large portion of the year,
mhm.
or even bits of the year for the Colts. Listen, the Colts were hard to scout. Yeah, obviously they were falling
Bingo.
apart. They guessed very incorrect on Matt Ryan. And I think the point's been made on this show before, Travis, by me or you, or I remember saying it, you might have as well, as how I'll say it, that whatever happens this year, the Colts have taken a net positive step forward by getting a quarterback that you can probably
Mhm,
guarantee will be back next year. Not somebody who's,
mhm.
utilizing Ensure to keep up his nutrition count, right? Um,
That's it. Yeah.
that's an old people joke. That's what I'm trying to say. But you mentioned Shaq Leonard, and I think what makes Shaq Leonard more dangerous over and above is DeForest Buckner. Listen, when
Bingo.
it comes to stopping the run, DeForest Buckner is a force. Just look at the games between the Colts and Derrick Henry. I can't say against
Mhm.
Jonathan Taylor because, they don't play each other at
Yeah, play
regulation
each other.
time. It's funny. The one that the Colts had DeForest Buckner, the Titans didn't win. Interesting how that works, you know.
Right.
So from that standpoint, I would pair that with the interior line being banged up as they are from the preseason. Sure, they've had some times to shore things
Mhm.
up. Travis, you're aware, the guard position has questions on the offensive line for the Jags.
Right. That's one of my main matchups. That is my one of my top 2 matchups in this game is how will Brandon Scherf, Ben Barch, Luke Fortner perform against DeForest Buckner and Shaq Leonard? It's not just DeForest Buckner, obviously. It's not just Shaq Leonard,
Yeah.
obviously, but that's former All Pro Shaq Leonard. That's former All Pro DeForest Buckner. Like we're talking 2 great players that work in tandem with each other to historically stop the run. So we didn't play Shaq Leonard last year, and we ran for 243 yards. DeForest had some injuries throughout the season
Yep.
and wasn't necessarily himself. And he had up and down games. First game of the season, how was that going to look? The Jaguars were very successful running the ball against, Miami Dolphins, and we talked about that when they
Chris
didn't have their
Wilson's
top two
history.
interior linemen.
Right.
How is this running game going to look? How much are we going to be able to lean on it? How explosive will that offense look against those two players? It's going to be fun. Like, that is going to be a fun matchup to watch. I'm sure I'm going to watch that one twice simply to look at those two players in the middle for Indy.
Yeah, we'll watch for this pencil whip. I'll call it right here, and I'm not exactly reinventing a wheel here, but watch for a lot of Travis Etienne or somebody to the outside early, widen
Mhm.
those splits so somebody has a fighting chance to get that double on Buckner, and there's a one-on-one in the second level against Shaq Leonard, and that's the one that's got to be won.
Yeah.
That's the block that's advantage guard or Scherf in this case, and he's got to win that one if they're going to try to run the football, and by that point. When
Right.
they go back to the inside, maybe they'll have Tank Bigsby in. I'm not sure exactly how they'll do that. I don't know how much they want to give away the play. I'll put
Mhm.
it this way: Tank Bigsby showed me enough that he can play on 3 downs and catch the football as well. He just may not necessarily be the first choice right away. I expect Tank Bigsby, if things go well, if the Jaguars are up by at least 2 touchdowns in the second half, be prepared to see a lot of Tank Bigsby, at least 50 yards of production as they try to wind the clock down.
Oh yeah, I mean, I fully agree with that. And again, if they are able to get a 2 touchdown lead, this is going to turn into what that game was in the Indy last year. Because if they have a 2 touchdown lead at halftime or something along those lines late in the third, you might forget just Tank Bixby. You might see Jermichael Hasty. You might see right, like you might see Dearness Johnson. Like at that point, like we might be getting deep into the like, and it even happened last year when Jermichael Hasty had the long run against Indy because he was getting what was it 7 or 8 just those 7 or 8 runs. So
Right.
I fully agree with you. If they have that kind of success, it's going to be because they're running the ball well.
Well, I have to mention something about Tank Bigsby in particular because he was nice enough to talk to me for a bit after the preseason game in Everbank. Also, there are more receipts currently about how wrong I am about him as a draft pick, or so it's looking like.
Oh,
So I got to counteract some of those and collect some of that.
I don't think you're. Yeah, I want to be clear. I don't think you. I don't. I personally don't think you're wrong at all. I think Travis Etienne is going to take that early James Robinson role
Oh
that
no,
they
no.
had last year.
I mean, where I'm wrong is having questions about the drafting of Bigsby in the first place.
Oh,
That's
that's fair. That's fair. Go, that's a fair question. But now you're seeing how it works, and you're seeing the depth that they have, and you're seeing how the coaching staff at least feels about the rest of the team. It is what it is. Like I don't think any of us would say we agree that they shouldn't have gone defensive end, but it kind of is what it is at this point. So I agree with the thought process that maybe questioning the pick, yeah, that's fair. But questioning the player, oh, that's another conversation because he's
yeah.
he's dope.
Oh yeah, exactly. And we'll take it here to this piece as well. Heading over to the Jags offense, I think the main thing that hurt them was, and Trevor will tell you himself, he's still trying to get his footwork right.
Mhm.
People keep. I can't. The thing that really cheeses me off, Travis, are these complete and total morons disguising themselves as analysts. Yeah, I said it. Deal with it. Who want to keep bringing up Trevor's rookie record
Mhm.
under Urban Meyer. But when you're mired in Urban's coaching, how the hell are you supposed to win games? And we won't even get into elements of the schedule that were tougher that year than
Mhm.
the year following, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
the people that are just not watching the games, unaware of what is going on, and basically not throwing out the rookie season are just doing an injustice to what is factually accurate when it comes to one Trevor Lawrence. And I mention
Yeah.
all that even back as a rookie, he was pointing out his footwork. Now, granted, I don't know who was coaching him to make it better, but apparently there weren't a whole lot of people doing it. Doug
Mhm.
Peterson comes to town, someone's addressing his footwork. It gets better inside of 2022. They win the division. Coincidence? I think not.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And they got better as the season went on.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what third to five
And it's
teams.
still not perfect. And to be clear, it's still not perfect. He still has those lapses. He still has those plays. Watch the breakdown of him. What about a week or 2 weeks ago with JT O'Sullivan, former NFL quarterback. He has his own YouTube
Oh,
channel, the
that
QB
QB
School.
school is, man.
Right, the
Listen,
QB School, and he broke it, and he broke down on just a few of those plays when Trevor just let his footwork get away from him. There was a 5 yard stop route on third down to Zay Jones, and he just puts it way too far out to the left, and it was all footwork. Just things of that nature. He still has things that are going to creep up and have to be cleaned up, but that's where coaching comes in. That's where repping it comes in, and he got better last year. And I intend on it's good now, and it's going to become better even as this season goes on because he has so many former quarterbacks and quarterback coaches around this team around this offense that they're not going to let him get away with those small things. They're coaching him up. They're on him, and it's wonderful. It's beautiful.
I love how you're wording that. They're not going to let him get away with it. I think that's an appropriate description. And let's move over to the other side. Anthony Richardson. I think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback one day. We just ain't there. I think he has the potential to be what Cam Newton was, but I don't think he has the potential to do it in his rookie year. That
Right.
being said, I would assume if I'm a Colts fan that if they don't have a designed QB draw play up the middle behind the judo guard himself, Quentin Nelson, they're doing it wrong. Okay.
There's no way they don't.
Right. And now, and you mentioned Hamilton being out. Fatukasi
Yeah.
will be in the game, so that'll be a big deciding factor there too. And I'm sure Foye Oluokun, once again a captain, by the way, will be on watch for that to kind of crash down on that play if and when it happens.
So that is my other matchup to watch. It's actually not Foye, but it's Adam Gostis because Coach Peterson, on Wednesday, stated that Gostis is going to be taking the Devon Hamilton role. You're going to have Foye playing his normal role, obviously, and that's where that's going to come in. It's going to be because Hamilton was so good at both rushing the passer and stopping the run. Whereas Gostis, we've seen him have flashes of both, but he has limited snaps. So how is that going to work when you have a quarterback who's 240 pounds? When you basically have Derrick Henry at quarterback, and yeah, I mean this may be
Track
one of
star Ben
those.
Roethlisberger. Track star Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, there you go. So this is one of those games where it may be more beneficial to have someone like a Trevon Walker versus a Hutchinson, simply because this is a guy who's going to be so difficult to bring down. They're going to be running those RPOs where it's going to be a lot of one-on-one tackling, and if you miss that tackle, he's off to the races. He's 30 yards downfield. We talked about this before the podcast. Like I watched every preseason snap for that starting Colts offense for just to kind of get a gauge of what they want to be, even if they're not there yet. And honestly, as much as people are talking about the expectation that this is a 4-win team, and I do believe it,
Same
I
here.
don't believe that. Yeah, I don't believe they're going to be a walkover. I saw how they played against the Bills in week 1 of the preseason. I saw how they played against the Eagles in week 3. That did not and both teams were missing starters on their defense, but it wasn't the whole starting defense that were sitting.
Right.
That didn't look like a team that was just laying down, and that they were absolutely establishing the run as far as that's concerned. So if there is a concern for Jag fans, it's going to be that defense going to just slow them down. If you even if you give up points, just if you give up less than 21 points, you're probably going to win the game. That's my current opinion. That's my current understanding of it. But I also don't believe that this is going to be one of those, we're going to shut them out, we're going to hold them to 3 points. No, I don't believe that. Richardson is a great deep ball. He has Adam Pierce. He has goodness gracious, I forget his first name. Pierce from Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alec Pierce. There you go, from
Alec.
Cincinnati. And it's a great deep ball receiver. So you have that. So where Richardson needs to work is basically his short game. And if any of you are Florida Gator fans, you kind of know how this is already. It's that inconsistency. He's in very many ways, that's very Josh Allen-like in his freshman year. So that's that whole give and take. Are the Jaguars, who struggled against the Jets running a lot of RPOs in 2022, who struggled against, the Eagles running a lot of RPOs early in last season.
Well,
Are
see,
the Jaguars going to cure that RPO issue? Because it is a very technical way of playing defense, and you screw up once, you give up 30 yards.
would we be talking that much about struggling against RPO if they didn't turn over that Eagles game back? But I hear what you're saying. The
No, no,
Eagles
no, no. Well, the Jets game, you can't forget that most Jags fans
game.
pulled their hair out when they had this. I don't even know his name. This S-word guy. It was a backup quarterback. He came in the third quarter of the Jets game, and all of a sudden they're moving up and down the field. He just got cut this preseason. And it stinks that I'm going. I don't remember the guy's name.
It's not Mike White. You're
Right.
talking
It was just some wildcat, some no. I want to call the guy nobody. 'Cause
about
he's an NFL quarterback, but yeah, that. And it was so frustrating because the Jaguars could not stop them running that RPO game, running that wildcat, and it was a mess. So we've seen that as late as December of last year. So I don't
right.
want to just forget these things because we're in the new season. The defense matters and how they play it matters. And I'm hoping that Mike Caldwell has a solution to that RPO game, because if they let the Colts stay in this, make a special teams play here and there, just they keep it close, you give them that confidence. And then in the game in Indy, where the Jaguars haven't won since 2017, you don't want to let them stay in this game. You don't want to give them that confidence.
Travis, I think you broke it down to the great extent that you could. I think we gave the fans and the people everything they could want in this week's edition of the Duval Dive. Give me that final score in your mind, and then we'll wrap this beast up.
Brother, I'm going 34-20.
Oh,
But
okay.
I do believe we give up some points.
I see. I think both teams come out a little flat. I have 24-10. So we do have that similar domination, but I think you see both teams coming out on cylinders. I'm accounting for game one flatness. I just, I that feels appropriate to me. With that being said, if the Jags actually finally have that clean opening drive that they've been talking about all of preseason, then your score is probably going to be more likely to be correct than mine. But you can find out why exactly I come up with 24-10 in my portion of the weekly thoughts for the writers at the Jaguar Report on jaguarreport.com. My dude, John Shipley, running that show, and all the writers therein. So look out for that with the Jaguars Report there too. Travis, tell the world we can be found, my guy.
Well, I can be found on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes, whether that's Twix or yeah, Twitter X. That's Mr. Mike Patton of the AFC South, touring the AFC South. Yes, you can find me on Facebook, Threads, etc. Travis D. Holmes. You can find my writings on bitcatcountry.com. Take a look at the article from I should say late last night, where the media, we had a conversation with, Jaguars defensive and offensive coordinators, Press Taylor and Mike Caldwell, just discussing a lot of the things that we talked about earlier today. Jaguars are basically focusing on starting fast in week one. So that's on bitcatcountry.com. And you can find me all throughout the season. Again, just check out my Twitter, check out my Facebook. And, I'm always going to put some fun stuff on there just to mix it in with, just, give it a little sprinkle with my Jaguars talk.
Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Instagram as the same, the SOTG. Check out my writings with the Black and Gold Banneret covering UCF football, and of course the Jaguar Report of SI, talking all things Jaguars, as well as on the 3-point conversion, also with A7B in Sports and Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. In honor, joy, and privilege, football's real now, people. So we're trying to tell you. But until next time, everyone, class dismissed.